when you run your own business, I mean, one thing that I know people from, I can tell you as a recruiter, one thing that people struggle from the big four transitioning to a smaller firm is the infrastructure around them is so huge. Like there's a research person, an IT person, a marketing person, an expert in this, and the BD guys. Like you've got so many resources around you. Whereas when you run your own little firm or you go into a smaller firm, you're everything. Like you got to
Yeah.
fix your own IT issues. You got to do your own marketing. You got to put your own pitch together. So, and they struggle with that. And then
Yeah. And
obviously you had it.
yeah, I have. I've seen both. The analogy I use here is the big four feed you. When you're on your own, you feed yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a really different thing. I think because I came from a very small firm and I've grown with that firm, and then I had Big Four where I had everything done, and then I've kind of gone backwards. I've done this big round circle. I've known what I've needed. I'm a very big person in outsourcing and referrals, so having a really good connection and community around me. But I couldn't do what I do without my amazing team, like Lee Duffield, who's my general manager. She shoulders a lot of that day-to-day burden as well, and she has been amazing, and I couldn't do what I do without her. I've also got Rhett, who's my senior, who just, has taken on all the compliance work. It is the team that you have that makes it you. It's never about you. It's never about me. It's about the team. We could not do it without each other. And also the community around me in relation to allowing me to work while still having a family. Like my dad, I couldn't have done this without his support. He's just rock solid when it comes to babysitting, So you need to have the team around you or the capacity to get the team. And I do that by outsourcing a lot of the stuff. So what we chose to do here is say, what are our strengths? We'll play to each of those strengths. So for me, it's the sales, marketing, communications, advisory. For Lee, it's the technical tax, the general managing, the admin, the cloud. For Red, it's the compliance, accounting, tax, So we look at each of our strengths and then we say, well, where are our weaknesses? Let's just stopgap them. So we're really quite strategic around that.
How much growth have you had over the last sort of 12, 18 months?
A lot. We've most probably put on about, like when we came on board, we were sitting around the 556s. We're now nearly topping out of the 8s. So that's a fair amount in a very small space of time, and we're still growing.
And what's the plan for the next, 5 years? Like what is the vision for your
Well, interestingly, we never wanted to be too big. We did it because we're really passionate about it and we just wanted to be a bit boutique. But we had these 5-year plans and we're like, we're kind of already going to reach them. What do we do? So we've already kind of reset the bar a bit, and hence why we're outsourcing now as well. That was never actually in our original plan, just to get volume and scalability. So we set up the practice and we put an enormous amount of work into our tech stack and our processes so that we could scale. And so my strong suspicion at this point is that we'll scale through an outsourced model, focusing on our key areas of bookkeeping, compliance, and cloud and tax. So the game plan is growth still, but I think at some point there'll most probably be a bit of a cleansing for clients that may not fit before we get too much bigger. So our focus is really more profitability rather than revenue at this point. We're very picky about what clients we take on, and I'm getting pickier. They really do need to fit with and align with us and be willing to pay. Obviously, we've been really, really lucky with that. But, we do have, I guess, we're very clear about what we do and what we don't do. Like I'll tell clients, I don't think we're the right fit for you, or we definitely don't do that, but I know somebody that does. Like if somebody came in with M&A work, I'd be like, no, we don't do that. Here's that person. Whereas I know some people are like, oh no, we'll try and do everything. And I'm just not a big believer in that. We have sweet spots. I want to stick in the sweet spot because that's where the profit is and that's where the margin is. And that's what we love to do. So we're really specific on what we do. We're really specific on the clients we take on board. Yes, we want to grow. Yes, we can because we've got the scalability, but it's really maintaining that profit line. That's the most important thing for us right now.
Yeah. No, look, I'm a big believer in that as well. You know what they say? I think revenue is like vanity, and
100%.
yeah, I'm a
And
big
this is the people
believer in
chase
profit as well.
revenue, and it's like, why would you chase revenue if you're making losses? Like, I'm chasing profitability. Like, that's
I
what
know.
I'm
Look,
chasing, and that doesn't necessarily equate to higher revenue.
I've always found it fascinating how the business has changed over the last sort of 5-7 years. Looking at those, Silicon Valley unicorns and all those businesses that have completely revamped. Like, because I'm an accountant as well,
Yeah.
completely turned upside down the matrix of a business, which used to be to generate profit. Now it's just scale and grow as quickly as possible, make as many losses as possible, but just grow at whatever pace is necessary, and then just sell.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I even saw an accounting firm that was going for startups and revenue, but they never got paid. So they're now out of business. How can an accountant go out of business? So I think, yeah, right. That's clearly the wrong model. You don't buy a sale. And this is what I say a lot. I'm not going to buy that sale because it's going to cost me in the end, either in time or in emotional effort.
Yeah.
And both of those are just as valid to me. I don't want to work with somebody that is difficult or hard or I don't like. I just don't. And that's my choice. I would prefer to say no to them.
I agree. You talked about tech stack and scaling. What is your tech stack in your practice at the moment that you guys develop or use?
It's big. Do we have half an hour? We do. Do you know the CA magazine? We gave them our tech stack and they put it in their CA Catalyst magazine. But
I think I've seen that article, yeah.
Yeah, the base is Xero, and we use the Xero working papers, Xero tax, and XPM modules. We use Practice Ignition. We've just brought on board FYI docs for our document storage and workflow. Previously, it was Box, and previous to that, it was Sweet Files. That has been a bit of a burden for us, that document storage. We use AccountKit, which is an amazing find for accountants who deal with larger groups with inter-entity loans and Div 7A. And BGL products. We're a huge believer in the BGL Simple Fund and CAS 360. They are absolutely amazing. And when you have an integrated system, and let's say you're purchasing a new company, we use ACIS, and it links to CAS and it links to XPM, you literally stand back and go, holy crap, that was amazing. Like, I still to this day go, wow, how did that happen? Just that automation of data is absolutely amazing. And we do use Receipt Bank as well. And I'm sure I've missed a few. Employment Hero, IntegraPay, but those are our major ones. And we use the Office 365 suite with Teams as our communication channel, and Asana for workflow for our bookkeeping.
For your bookkeeping, Asana. Interesting. Why is that? Or just for the workflow and monitoring?
Yeah, it's really great to assign specific tasks. So we've got it down to the most minute detail. So an absolute stranger could come in and pick up where somebody's left off. And that's the scalability and process we were talking about before, which has really helped us when we went to the outsource model. We used TOA. It was just seamless, and that certainly helped kind of make that successful.
Okay, so you use TOA?
Yeah, we use TOA Global, so the Nick Sinclair and those guys.
Okay, and that's Philippines?
Yeah, they're in the Philippines. Yeah, and we actually, Lee and I went there in last December to meet the team, which was absolutely amazing. And the way that I describe it is, I liked them already, but it not only opened my eyes, it opened my heart. Like, these are really beautiful people with families, and just the connections that we were able to build with them during that time. I was so grateful that we were able to go pre-COVID. But we'd sussed out TOA Global for a long, long time. We only like to use suppliers that we really align with culturally, especially when it comes to team members. That was really, really important to us. And they just didn't put a foot wrong, and we were so aligned in culture, and they've honestly been a fantastic fit for us, and the team members that we've got on board have been amazing. We even got one of those unicorns that people speak of, where she'd worked for an Australian firm and knew every single cloud product that we'd worked with. So it was just like, oh, this is amazing. So she literally hit the ground running.
We're hiring her.
Yeah, that's right. And I had to fight for her too. But Yeah, so we've been super, super impressed. And, you do have to put time and effort and work in to make that successful, just like you would any normal team member. And I think this is where some people fail with the outsourcing model is they presume somehow that they can read minds or that they know what to do. Well, of course they don't. Every single person needs to have time and effort and training and education and support and communication to make them successful.
I think it's that word outsource. It's like, well, I don't have time. I've outsourced it to you. Now deal with it.
But that's not what outsourcing is at all.
Exactly. It's just a person that's part of your team, but they're just in a different country.
Correct. And the more you I outsource a lot of things. I outsource my marketing now. I don't just say, do all my stuff, see you later. I engage with them. I talk with them. I communicate with them. That was what makes it better. That's what makes it more authentic. So with any person that I have a supplier relationship or an outsource relationship with, it's a relationship. I put time and effort in just as I would hope they would in return. And that's what makes it successful. And so I hear a lot of people say, oh, I've had these people come on board and they just didn't work. And I'm like, but why? And they want to know why we've made it work. But I suspect the issue resides with what they have not done.
How big is your team now? Your outsourced
team? So we've got 2 in the Philippines and 3 here.
Including yourself?
No, that was excluding me.
Okay, bless you. So, and the Philippines team was from the very get-go? Or was that
they started in November last year.
Okay. And was that always part of the plan to outsource?
We only did it because we grew so quickly. We were growing so quickly. And we'd kind of been following TOA for a while, and because of the growth trajectory, we kind of sat down and said, if we're growing this quickly, we really need to resource quickly. We also live in Adelaide, right? So it's really difficult to find the exact type of person you're looking for and not, have to pay through the roof. But the benefit of TOA was it was just so scalable. We can bring in and take off people as and when required. And we did consider a grad and we did try. But once again, there was this gap, this level of knowledge gap that we couldn't fill because we were so busy. So we needed to bring on board people that had years of experience that we could guide. And so it was really a resourcing where they just had the right people at the right time for the right fit, and it worked. And it was, for us, it was a trial. We thought, what's the harm in giving it a go? And because of our setup being all cloud-based and we had all the processes in place, it was literally 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It just made sense. And we've been...
Do they have any client interaction? The Philippines?
Yeah, so Joe does, yeah. And I wouldn't mind. They have, the girls that we've got, they've got, on their English accuracy, it's 95%. It's better than some people here. Yeah. Their spelling is amazing. And, it's really, from the Philippines, it's more of an American culture. They're actually very aligned to us and who we are, and they're very respectful people, and culturally we fit, and it just makes sense. So there's been no issues, and I would have no issues with that whatsoever. It's not a problem for me. We're very open that we use outsourcing. All of our clients know that. I'm very open with everything that we do, because if it doesn't fit for you, no.
No one's ever had issues with it?
No. I think because they know I'm still over the top of it. I think they would have issues with anybody if they didn't think I or Lee were looking over things. It's just like with any new team member that somebody doesn't know, there's a level of, I don't know these people. But time builds trust. And I think if you're the solid rock, if there's always consistency, and you're that solid rock and you're always there, I think you can communicate your way through anything. And that's certainly what I've done. I clearly communicated what we were doing and why we were doing it. And I do that because if it doesn't align with you, that's totally okay. And now you have the choice to go somewhere else if that's what you want. But we haven't had that experience. Everybody just says, "Are you still there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, do whatever you need to do." It's like it's just another team member. And I that's something I was worried about, if I'm being really honest. I was worried about if there may be some backlash, because you do hear about it. But for me, I didn't experience any of that whatsoever, and it's been a really great experience.
Okay, that's good to hear. Because you hear different things, as you said, different experiences from different firms, and also even candidates that we have. Some are reluctant to work for places that outsource for whatever reason. Illogical to me, but for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's their bias. They may perceive that, they're not going to get valued here, or they may not have as many opportunities. I don't know. But, each person on their merits and their own skills, we certainly haven't had a problem with that. And I would highly recommend it. We work in a global environment. We buy from overseas on most goods. And, this is just a service. These people, and this is the thing that I realized more when I visited, they are beautiful people with beautiful families and friends. And, I would, of course, I'm going to support them and care for them and want them to do well, just as I would somebody here. It makes no difference to me. It's the person rather than where they're located. And so I think that's most probably where, if we try and have a global mindset, I think that, we can kind of help each other.
Makes sense. Speaking of opportunities, what would be your advice? And especially, we're touching on a lot of interesting points. There's the automation piece, there's the AI piece, there's the outsourcing piece now as well. What would be your advice to a student right now in accounting, or thinking of getting into the industry of bookkeeping? What should they be considering? And
know your tech. I truly believe if they know their tech and know it back to front and know how to integrate and automate, they will have a skill set that is very saleable. Because a lot of firms are desperate. They want to buy it. So, as in buy it in, because they don't have it. So I think if somebody is willing to learn the tech, because that's where we're going, let's be honest, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That will be a massive gain to the employer, that skill set. So focusing on, yes, you've got to have your base core technical, of course you do, but focusing on the tech, on the change management, on the communication, recognizing that from day dot you are actually in sales and marketing as well. I think all of those things, being flexible and fluid, seeing opportunities, being flexible to change, all of those qualities I admire in a team member, and those people that hold those qualities and those really positive attitudes, I've seen them succeed and grow in their careers. And that's certainly, I think, the thing that stands out to me is people that are willing to give something a go.
Doesn't sound like you're talking about an accountant at all.
Interestingly, there are. I see what I call the new breed, and they are like that. Do you know the amount of people that have come up to me in the past at conferences when we were allowed to have them, or connect with me on LinkedIn, or want to catch up with me or have a chat? These are guys that are gunning for it. They love it. They want it. They're excited about it. I've had a really different experience. Like, I've sat on panels with what I call old school accountants who say nobody wants to take over the business. It's so hard to find somebody for succession planning. And I say, really? Because I haven't found that. I've found people that are really invested and want to grow and want to have opportunity. And, I think we have to make it an opportunity. It can't be some mangy old moldy carrot that, you've been doing the same thing for 50 years and your client base is dying and you want to buy in at, 3 times the dollar. Why would I want that? I'm getting legacy systems. I'm buying crap. This person could literally walk out the door and start their own firm because all of the barriers to entry are low. The people that are trying to sell their practices, basically need to build their value proposition. And the people that I'm seeing come through who are hungry for it and really love the industry, there are those people. And so I'm buoyed by the fact that there are people out there like that. And I think it is a changing industry. And yes, there'll always be those that like it the way that it's been. And there'll be some staff members that like that too. But I think, there's more now on this end of trying to make it a bit more innovative and exciting and more advisory and, more techie. But maybe it's just the circles I travel in.
Echo chamber.
Maybe.
No, it's true.
Maybe.
It's true because it feels like there's a wide chasm between sort of the old school and the new school now. And yeah.
I think it is getting wider, but I think in time some of the old guys will retire and maybe, just maybe, their successors will want to change things up a bit.
You've kind of made it seem like it's been an easy path for you over the last 2 years. You just started your own firm, flew in there, set everything up, and it's been smooth sailing. I guess, what about on the flip side of that? What have been the major or the biggest challenges or the pain points of the last couple of years?
The pain points are document storage. It's been like my bugbear. We did have a staff member come across with us that left, so that was pretty sad, but that was more a joint decision around it just not working. So I think HR matters are always hard, and that was so sad for me because I adored her as a person and I miss working with her. So that's, getting the right staffing, I think, is always an issue. What other pain points were there? The pain point of growing too quickly, it is actually quite painful and feeling like, whoa, we need to slow things down a little bit because client service is a huge factor for me and I don't want that to drop. But honestly, I've had so many positive things come from it, like the freedom and the joy I've received from running my own business far outweighs the stress. And I think because I just love it so much, it's maybe what some people would consider stressful or hard. I'm like, oh, well, I just roll with it. It's just one of those things. I think every business, has its moments. COVID was a moment, I guess, where something happens that you don't expect, and how do you quickly, put in place the strategies to move forward and look after your team and look after your clients and work from home while you're a busy mum. That was really, really difficult. So I'm glad I live in Adelaide at this point. Hey?
Tell us a bit more about that as a mum, because we've had that issue. Most of my team is remote, and it's a lot of mums, and some are single mums, and they struggle with the whole homeschooling thing. And
my heart goes out to them. My heart truly goes out to them. I actually put a video up on LinkedIn about it. It was a bit tongue-in-cheek. I explain it like everything I ever outsourced in my life came home to roost. So obviously I was homeschooling year 9 and a year 5 student. I have my youngest who's 2. So my dad, who babysits, couldn't babysit because he was in a high risk category. So I had 3 children at home, working from home from the busiest times we've ever had, trying to get on top of new legislation, clients being really stressed out. The children do not let me work. So I was, there's a Dolly Parton meme going around working 9 o'clock to 9:05, 9:10 to 9:17, 9:32 to 9:37. It was literally little pockets. And I found it incredibly difficult. My cleaner couldn't clean because she had a little one that she couldn't get looked after. My father-in-law, who I love dearly, passed away, and they came from a very Greek culture. It's a really big deal, and so having to grieve, but without having people around you, it was actually one of the most stressful times in my life. But I think this is where resilience comes in, and I knew it was a time, and I knew that it would pass, and I would just focus on the things that I could do and not hold myself to a really high account. And I was really honest with clients, and I'd say, look, my children are most probably going to come in, please understand that. Or if I couldn't get something done straight away, I'd be like, could you just wait 2 hours or 3 hours until my little one's gone to bed so I can do this? Once again, communication being the key. I truly believe you can communicate your way out of anything. You just have to be honest and clear. And I think when you set those expectations up and boundaries, when you set those expectations up and those boundaries and live by them, I think that you can kind of work through most things. And I know that my experience is not uncommon to a lot of working mums who, Rebecca Mihalik, another really powerful woman in the industry. We had a conversation the other day, conversations over coffee through practice ignition, which we discussed this particular matter and how difficult it was. And I'm grateful that I live in Adelaide, that we're basically back to normal, because if that wasn't the case, I might be saying a very different thing right now.
No, it's been a challenging time, and it's back to being a challenging time in Victoria.
That's right. And so my heart goes out to them. And so, how do we support them as a community, as an accounting community? How do we get around them and lift their spirits a little bit and connect in with them and make sure that they're okay? So if there are people that in the industry in Melbourne, connect with them and say, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Like, surely there is.
Are you still involved with the Life Back?
Life Back? This actually came from a client of mine. So Life Back was a not-for-profit that was established to help with men's mental health. So Anthony Hart, who really headed that up, has actually started his own business, which is called Heart Wellbeing, and that involves or has a portion of the Life Back. And he goes around and speaks about it. So he had an episode in his life where he suffered from depression, and he actually made an attempt on his own life and fell from like a 12-story building, and he survived. And so he now speaks about that to many people, and really just talks around the really simple steps that you can take to help yourself work through, levels of depression. And that's really around exercise, rest, limiting alcohol and drugs, and talking, communication yet again.
And I brought it up because we spoke a lot about like the stress factor and balancing life.
Yeah, that's right. And if I'm being really personal, my youngest sister took her life through suicide. So it was a matter that was really close to my heart. Yeah, it was a matter that was really close to my heart. And so having Anthony as a client, it just kind of aligned. And so I really helped him, I guess, build that brand and support him wherever I can to get that story out, because it is so important. Are you okay? It's so important to ask. And I know that suicide and mental health impacts a lot of us, not us individually, but maybe the people that we care about. And when you speak to people, most people have been impacted in some way through mental health issues. So important to talk about it, so important to help where you can.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I've only got two more questions. One is, I guess they say, hindsight is 20/20. What would you have done differently in your career or in your business?
I most probably wouldn't have waited as long in my first job. So I waited 13 years and believed that my loyalty would get me into a role that I deserved. That was not the case. So I think backing myself earlier and being confident enough to communicate what I really wanted. I certainly look back and think I most probably lost 5 to 7 years in that role. I most probably would have started a lot earlier in my business. I wish that I'd done it years ago. Hindsight 20/20. Those are most probably the two things, but then in saying that, if I look at it, it's most probably the journey I needed to take, because it's helped to form where I am today. So, just having that confidence to speak up and be bold and, know that you got something special going on. Everybody does. Just got to find what it is.
Would you have done anything different in your business?
Document storage.
The way you Is it solved now? Is that issue solved?
Yes, FYI, Docs has solved it. Would I know?
Okay.
No. Not in the slightest. I
I mean,
feel
it
like
sounds like
it's the journey I was meant to take.
okay, and it sounds like you put a lot of thought into setting things up properly rather than ad hocly. So I think that's
After
probably why
25
there's not
years, you've
many.
got some really predefined ideas.
Mm. Um, and the last question would be, what does downtime look like for you? Like, what have you been reading, watching, learning recently?
Downtime is family time for me. It's just chillaxing with the kids, spending time with them, spending time with the hubby, spending time with my family. I've got a really big family. So, I've come from a family of 6, 3 older brothers, 2 younger sisters. And then we've got like 13 grandchildren. So a lot of my time is spent there. And I also have lifelong friends that I spend a lot of time with. So it's really around people. It's around relationships. My downtime is my personal relationships.
Okay, so connecting with people.
Connecting with people, definitely. And, another passion of mine is ballet. I did it until
Really?
yeah. I did it. Well, if I wasn't going to be an accountant, I would have been a ballerina. And I did it for like 25 years. And the only reason I stopped was because my knees and ankles were aging very, very quickly. And I did classical like on point. So I knew that my career would have been very short-lived. So accounting. So I do like a bit of classical ballet and watching and a bit of
So you're
music.
still a ballerina after hours?
Well, I've considered doing mature age ballet, but I'm not sure I can carry that off. Ask me in a year or two.
It's fantastic. Well, that's why I find like people say accountants are boring, but there's a lot of really cool accountants I speak to that do amazing things like car race driving. Now I've met a ballerina as well. The list keeps growing.
Absolutely.
Aly, are there any books you've read or things that you watched or people you met that have had the most tremendous impact on you?
Yeah. The Lean In book was a really big one for me. Sheryl Sandberg. That was a game changer for me. The other one, which is really, really odd, is Who Moved My Cheese? Have you?
Yeah, that's the old one. Yeah.
It's like it's like the smallest book.
Book, yeah,
But
profound.
there is so much power. Like I've done a lot of presentations, and I think in every single presentation I've mentioned that book because it's about change and how people react to change and behaviors to change. And it has that, you can put that in anything, sales and marketing, and you can put that in innovation and tech. And so those are my two. Weird as that may be.
What about Lean In? Why was that the game changer for you?
I think in the book, she'd written down words that I'd felt, and she'd written them like I'd lived it. I'd lived her experiences, and
it just resonated with you a lot.
It absolutely resonated with me, and there was a great amount of power around finding, who you are and being confident in that. And, even little things like, there are statistics around, women and men who have the same level of skill set and experience. If they're going for a job and there's a skill that the person, and they say, do you have this skill? The woman, if she hasn't done it, will say no, and the man will say, yeah, I could do that. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of broke open this really big open world to, oh my gosh, I do that. Like maybe I should just say, nah, I can do it. And because I know I can, it's just I haven't actually yet. So it was all those little nuances, and it was like I was reading my story.
Okay. Aly, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing. Thank you.